Good morning and welcome to Vocal Intuition Live. And I'm really excited this morning because I have a special guest, as you can see. This is Nikki Franklin from Franklin Physio. And Nikki is a physiotherapist who also specialises in voice and in, I suppose, laryngeal manipulation and massage and looking after voices in general. So welcome, Nikki, and it's great to see you.
Hi, Anne. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do in more detail and why you love it? Because I know that you do, having met you before.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm a physiotherapist. I specialise, I'm a musculoskeletal physiotherapist. And whenever I say that to people, people always say, what does that mean? So it basically just means you can come to me with any injury, whether you've sprained an ankle, torn a hamstring, got back pain, neck pain, the kind of the whole body approach. But like you said, I also specialise in the voice. So I worked in London for 14 years at a performance clinic that was well known for working with all the West End shows, television productions, and in that line of work, we worked with a lot of pop, opera, musical theatre singers, but also people that don't necessarily sing for a living but have to use their voice in their working capacity. And so we specialise in assessing the larynx when people have difficulties perhaps making sound or are starting to lose range or noticing there's problems with their voice. So we can assess the resting state of the larynx, and if there's a sort of muscular component to why there's a problem in that area, we can work at treating that and helping the voice user to overcome it.
Fantastic. So I think this is an important thing, is that maybe a lot of voice users don't realise just how important it is to look after this muscular aspect of the system.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think the body sort of finishes here sometimes and don't always realise how athletic that small area of the body can be. And especially if you use it for your work, there's a lot of people that aren't aware of how much they're exercising that area and how much tension can build in that area.
Yeah, and a lot of those muscles are very small and quite delicate, aren't they?
Yeah.
Strong but delicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's easy to refer tension and problems to other parts of the body or vice versa. Which way does it typically work, would you say? Does it tend to be referred tension from neck and shoulders, or do we get tensions in the larynx which refer the other way?
It can be very much what comes first, the chicken or the egg, and it depends on the individual, which is why when you see a client, I'm sure you're the same, you kind of look at their own, it's not sort of one size fits all, and you look at them individually. But because of the way the anatomy works around the larynx, some of the muscles that are the bigger muscles around our neck and shoulders actually come up and attach into some of the muscles around the neck. So that will impact how the larynx moves. Similarly, some of those smaller muscles that attach into the larynx also attach into the front of our shoulder blades. So there's such a direct link between what's happening in one will have an effect on the other and vice versa. So yeah, we always try and look at like the upper body, the shoulder girdle when we're assessing someone's larynx, because you can often find linked tensions in each area.
Yeah, I certainly felt that when I came to see you a couple of weeks ago. It was really funny because I came to just get to know you and have a chat.
And then I beat you up.
And then Nikki actually did some work with me, and I realised just how tense I was actually, and that was quite surprising.
Yeah, I think you don't always realise how much stuff is building up until someone really gets in there.
Absolutely, you know, with those sternocleidomastoid muscles and here under the chin
and the tongue. Yeah, absolutely,
and all of that. And again, we assume that, you know, because we're voice professionals that maybe we're okay.
Yeah.
And whatever we feel becomes normality, doesn't it? So we overlook it and we don't realise that perhaps those tensions are there.
Absolutely.
So it takes somebody like you to show us.
No.
No, you really did get in there. I found that really useful, and it felt a lot better, certainly, the next day. And it got me thinking, because we were chatting and saying, well, it takes a team, doesn't it, to look after a professional voice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always say to my voice clients, if you think of say you've got a page and you've got that diagram where you've got your voice in the middle of the page, and there's things feeding into the voice as to what can cause tension, what can help it. There's so many factors that feed into why the voice can become problematic, and therefore there's lots of things that you can do to strip those things away. And it's not just physio, it's not just a voice coach, it's a real team effort, because we could, as the physios, we could strip back all that muscle tension for you, get the larynx moving much freer, but then it's all going to revert straight back unless you then work with someone to help with your technique or how you're actually exercising that area. We'd see the client again soon after if they don't then get on top of those things with someone else who's more of an expert in that field. So it is a real team effort, and that's how you get the best results.
Yeah, and maybe the SLTs as well, and people,
Exactly.
and especially if there's been some kind of issue with the voice or pathology that somebody is recovering from, or just simply something like muscle tension dysphonia, which needs working at, and this can be a really good complement to that and really help.
Yeah,
I've certainly had a couple of clients with that issue.
Yeah,
I wish they lived in Burton-on-Trent so I could say, go and see Nikki.
I know someone nearby.
Kieran, we should mention Kieran as well, actually.
Yeah, there's two of us. So my husband and I, we both worked in London, and we're from the Midlands originally. We had a baby a year ago, and it was one of those things where we just thought, actually, it'd be nice to be closer to family and go at it as Franklin's doing physio up here. So we're sort of bringing those specialist services to the Midlands, which is great.
Yeah. I'm absolutely delighted because you're just around the corner from me in Burton.
So
I can walk there. It's great. But you also have a clinic in Tutbury, don't you? That's mainly where you're based, Nikki.
Yeah, so we've got 2 bases at the moment for face-to-face clinical appointments. So yeah, I'm in Tutbury 2 days a week, and Kieran's usually at our Burton base where I saw you. But on top of that, because we're medical professionals, we are also allowed to do home visits. We've got, full PPE at this time, and then some stuff we do virtually. But a lot of the voice stuff, it does tend to work better face to face, so that we can really get our hands on and have a good feel of the larynx as well. So
yeah, I mean, very much like working with voices from a singing or speaking point of view, but we're doing the best we can on screens at the moment, Although, that can be useful as well with...
it totally has a place.
And people can check in. So coming back to the time of COVID, Nikki, how has that affected your business, do you think, in terms of the people that you're seeing? How is it affecting the people that report to you, I suppose, is what I'm asking?
Yeah, very mixed, I would say. So we've definitely found there's still a need for people to want to look after their bodies, which is amazing and encouraging, because although there are a lot of restrictions in place, you don't want to just sit on things and allow things to exacerbate within the body over time. And especially with the voice, that's something that, what might start off as a little bit of muscle tension, if not treated, can over time cause slightly more structural stress and load to the body, which you don't want, especially if you are using your voice professionally. We're seeing a real mix of people. So a lot more people, obviously ourselves included, are working on the laptops and are communicating over the laptops on Zoom meetings or whatever FaceTime service they're using. And I think even people that aren't singers but have to use their voice all day in meetings in that capacity are noticing a lot of tension build within the body. We're getting a lot more lower back pains because everyone's sat down a lot longer at the moment. And also that kind of neck and shoulder tension, which over time can feed into the voice. So I think there's a lot of kind of tensions building that people are noticing, and it's just sort of letting them know that you're still able to help them during this time, really, which we can.
Brilliant. I mean, I think it's a case that maybe people who use their voices for their living, so the singers, the actors, the public speakers who do that professionally, may be more in tune with their voices and the fact that they're to their bodies than people who are general professional voice users, i.e. using their voices in their business every day. They could be coaches, therapists, teachers, all sorts of people. People who own their own business, and they're talking all day, but they don't realise the link between their body and the voice itself. And that's part of the reason I want to do this. I wanted to do this today, rather, because I'm doing this series on being truly heard. And part of being truly heard is actually looking after the voice that we've got. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, don't be silly. No, absolutely. That makes sense. And I think I once had a teacher come in with voice problems, telling me that she needed to hand in a notice and she would have to retrain in a completely different career because she'd got to a point where every Friday night she had no voice left. And it wasn't the case. That didn't need to happen. She liked teaching. She just thought it was ruining her voice. But actually getting that kind of understanding that actually this is an area of the body that you're using a lot, you're having to talk over loud noise all day because you've got lots of little ones running around. Sometimes you might put on a slightly higher pitched voice when you're talking to children, so you're using that area of the body differently again. And it was just kind of educating, undoing some of that muscle tension and letting her realize that actually you don't need to quit your job. This can be so much better than what it is. But like you said, not everyone that perhaps isn't a singer or a professional actor is that in tune with their tool.
Yeah. And so I'm on a bit of a mission to change that, really. It's part of the work that I'm doing at the moment. And it also makes it easier for people to express themselves. If the physical side of the voice is working effectively and working efficiently, those muscles are working in tandem with each other in the way that they should, instead of, co-opting other muscles to do the job or creating stresses and tensions where we don't need them. Yeah. Good. So tell us more about laryngeal massage. I mean, I have actually had this done, and it was weird because in one way, it was more comfortable than I thought it would be, and in another way, it still made me go, ooh.
Yeah.
It was very, very useful. So, for people who don't know, tell us what that's about and what your aims would be. Although I know that it's going to be specific, but
yeah. So in a very, very basic explanation, you've obviously got your larynx, which is a joint surrounded by lots and lots of different muscles. And sometimes the way that the muscles around the larynx can behave can create tension and restriction in the way the larynx then moves and operates as a joint. That in turn will have a knock-on effect on how your vocal folds are going to meet and come together. So if you start to get excessive tension around the larynx, you're going to have a knock-on effect on the vocal fold closure and the sound that you can make. So when you come in for a physio assessment, perhaps having noted a bit of trouble in that area, or perhaps have been advised by a singing teacher, vocal coach that you're working with that they think something's going on in this area and they think you might benefit from some physio intervention, you come in for a physio assessment. We have a good look around the resting state of the larynx. Is it high? Is it tight? Is it moving freely? We might get you to make some sounds to hear if there's any impact. Is there a change in your upper register? Is there a loss of upper register? Are you cutting out? We'll listen to your spoken voice when you're talking to us about your symptoms. We'll have a good look at your neck and shoulder mobility and the surrounding muscles in those areas. And then once we've found out where we feel the main tensions are coming from and where the main areas of treatment need to be targeted, we'll work very hands-on on releasing some of those tight muscles. We'll also perhaps do some specific manipulation on the larynx, which is quite invasive. It is, it's all around here. And, for saying we've only just met, I'll have my hands quite firmly around your throat, but in a very kind of tailored, anatomical, aware way that hopefully gets the joint moving better, the muscle tension down, and then as a result, you sound different often pretty much straight after one treatment, as long as there's nothing very, very structurally wrong and it's more muscle tension and joint mobility that's the issue. Often you can hear a difference in a person's spoken voice or their range when you retest after a session. And I think that's what makes it such a nice treatment, because when it's purely muscular, you get someone come in that's in a pretty bad way or stressed about their potential, their money maker. And then you do some work and you show them actually it can be better than this, and the relief that you see in that person, but also you can hear the difference and feel the difference on the way that the larynx moves after a session. It's a really nice treatment to do because of that. And then there's a whole bunch of education that goes into it, perhaps some postural stuff, some advice on warming up and cooling down, that kind of thing, so that they go away with a few tricks and tools to help maintain the release work that you've done. And then, as we've already said, pointing them in the direction, if they're not already working with someone like yourself, or someone that can guide them with the technicalities of voicing, then always trying to point them in that direction so that they get longevity out of your treatment.
Exactly. So it's this team approach, really. It's interesting because there are some overlaps there between what you would do and I would do. Obviously, I won't do the physical intervention because I'm not trained to do that, but the testing the voice out and the listening to the speaking voice. And it's really great to know that you're just around the corner. You're somebody that I can refer people to now in this area, rather than them having to go all the way down to London. Or
And likewise, it's good to have, we love to have a network of voice experts that we can work with for the side of things that we don't do as much of, and can point them in your direction too.
Yeah, thank you. So just to finish off with then, Nikki, what are your 3 top tips for the professional voice users? So by this, I mean, you know, those who are doing it for a living, but also those who speak a lot in their jobs. So what are your 3 top tips if they want to keep their voices working well? They'd look after their car, so they need to look after their voices.
I know. So I think, number 1, think about a vocal warm-up. Prepare your body for the activity ahead, just like you would with a physical warm-up if you're about to jump into a dance class or an exercise class. Your body wants to be ready for what's about to happen. So whether that's singing an opera, whether that's talking all day on Zoom, warm your body up for that activity. And also think about the whole body in that warm-up. So yes, you want to get the nitty-gritty bits nice and warm, and the tongue moving, the lips moving, the larynx moving. But also, you know, there's so much more involved to voicing, the back, the shoulders. So think about the whole body in that warm-up. I think that's important too. Number 2 follows on from number 1, cool down. I think lots of people perhaps do a vocal warm-up, but they don't always think about the cool down. And just because you know, you might not feel like you've been exercising the same way as if you've done a dance class or an exercise class. If you've been speaking all day, singing for a long time, using your voice in a different manner, you want to bring your larynx and your body back to a nice, happy, resting position in an optimized fashion, so that when you then have to use your voice the next day, you're not starting from a tight, elevated, hard work position. So just even if it's something as simple as just sirening down the scale, going down from high to low, just bringing that larynx back down to a nice resting baseline, so that you're not then starting your workload from a hard position the next day. And then 3rd, I would say, probably linked into what we were saying earlier, if you are feeling that your voice isn't quite behaving as it normally does, things are harder work, it's breathier, you've perhaps lost some range, it's everything's just a bit more hard work than it used to be, don't sit on that. Don't let it become more of a problem, because it might be as simple as just having a couple of physio sessions, getting some guidance, working with a vocal coach or a singing teacher or a speech and language therapist, and then you're on top of it. You don't want to let that build up, and then it start to impact the more structural side to the larynx. You know, you don't want to start getting swelling, edema on your vocal folds, because that's more of a problem. It requires more intervention or more rest, which you might not be able to do. And so I think, just always seeking advice is good.
Absolutely. And just a reminder that as singing teachers, we're not qualified to diagnose these things, but people like Nikki are, and can have a look and a feel, and then she will know whether you need referral to somebody else as well. And as we said, it takes a team. I really would advise people, if you can manage and you're in the area and you're using your voice a lot, and especially I can see that there are other teachers on here with me today, get in touch and go and have a chat with Nikki and have things looked at, because I didn't think there was anything particularly stressed or tense about my voice, but there was. And, I should be going back for a follow-up very soon. It's just one of those things. It's like wear and tear. You drive the car needs an MOT every now and again. Absolutely. And we're using these muscles all the time. Thank you so much, Nikki. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for your time. And I'm looking forward to seeing Kieran on Monday.
He'll take good care of you. Thanks so much for having me on, Anne.
You're very welcome.